Welcome, everyone, to the last Sunday Satsang of our Sunday Satsang series. I feel to open the space for all of us today. If there is anything that is alive for any one of us that we want to talk about, feel free to raise your hand and we can chat about whatever it is that might be useful for you. Let's use this opportunity to talk about anything that might be alive in this moment, or any topic that we might be going through a contemplation about or investigation about. Feel free to raise your hand. And even if no talk happens today, that is here regardless of the words, whether the words are present or absent, whether the concepts are shared or not. That which is being pointed to by the use of concepts is already here. This space is being held by that already. So whether we say anything or not, satsang is going on. Renee.
Hi, Gurleen.
Hi, Renee. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Um, I was wondering about what you said last week about how to try and sit with suffering, um, uh, so as not to reach for the habits that we normally use. Um, and I was thinking as well about when you had advised me not to do deliberate sessions of meditation because they would enhance the sense of doership. And I thought, well, if I'm trying to resist suffering and going as long as I can without using distracting habits, isn't wouldn't that increase the sense of doership as well?
That's a great question. That's a great question. The sense of doership, well, the belief in the sense of doership, the doer identity, the separate psychological self, until it's there, which is actually the suffering itself, will take hold of anything or everything, however noble or however spiritual, however detached it may feel. So, yes, trying to meditate or trying not to meditate is the same thing until there's trying going on. Same trying to resist suffering or trying to not to resist suffering is also the same because there's trying. So then the doer mechanism within our systems will be like, then what do I do? If doing it is a problem and not doing it is a problem, then where do I go? What do I do? And that is the thing. Can we just do nothing? And yes, it to the seeker, to the doer mechanism, it feels frustrating. Then what do you mean? I have all this energy and motivation and intention to realize God today. So what do I do today in this moment for self-realization? And you're telling me, stop, just stop doing. But then if I try to stop doing, that's more doing. That's not stopping. And that is the paradox. So no matter what I do and no matter what I don't do, until there is this belief in the sense of doership, that doer mechanism that needs to achieve something, even in the form of end of suffering. If now I'm attached as the doer to the end of suffering, then basically it's that belief going on, which is believing that my happiness, my completeness is to be found in an outcome. Because now what has happened is the end of suffering or peace of mind has been put on the pedestal, not um, as something that may happen, but as something that I need to achieve. And that needing to achieve is the very suffering, is the very obstacle to the very peace of mind, to the very suffering falling away. So sitting with the suffering is another part of your question. So when suffering does arise, so when this doer mechanism is there, which is fully driven to either feel like a failure, I'm going to go get it. It's either or, it's always in extremes. And when it is here, there are moments when there is identification with that mechanism. And of course, there is. We haven't known what it is, but the doer identity. What does it mean to be, but not the doer? So, of course, there will be identification with, or what we can call forgetting of ourselves in the very drive of um, belief of doership and attachment to outcome. We will somehow be identified with the flow of life as the very purpose of life, that, oh, I need to not feel certain things or not do certain things or feel certain things or do certain things in order for me or for in order to life to be okay. And in the concepts that are shared are there to maybe act as a reminder while it is going on, is just to stop. It's like, oh, look at that. Look at that. I was forcing myself to meditate. Oh, look at that. I was forcing myself to not to meditate, even though I feel like meditating. So who is that police agent that is trying to manipulate the natural flow of things? And the natural flow may feel like meditating, or it may feel like not meditating. And it may also feel like that I don't want to meditate, but I think I still would sit for 5 minutes and see what happens. It may also be a discipline. It may feel like that every day morning, 7 a.m., I find myself sitting on my cushion and just closing my eyes. And that's okay. And one day I sleep until 10 a.m. and then I wake, I was like, oh, I'm already late. But then there is no guilt for not meditating that day, because the guilt for not meditating is counterproductive, is actually more suffering than what the meditation practice is, suffering, which is end of guilt. So if the meditation itself becomes an agent of guilt or an agent of pride, then that meditation is not advised. But if it is a natural flow that comes, that, oh, I just feel like um, hanging out within myself to see what comes and what happens, how loud it gets or how quiet it gets, what are my thoughts, what are the sensations in the body, or just no agenda, just sitting with eyes open or closed, but just sitting with nothing. Well, that's meditation right there. So it is not about, there's this one side angle within the framework that Roger also shares, is the shoulds and shouldn'ts versus what I feel like doing. And very practically speaking, there are things in our daily life that we are just on autopilot doing because we never question them. There hasn't been ever an inquiry into that, why do I talk like this, or why can't I say no, or why do I play a certain sport, or why do I work this job, why do I avoid relationships, or why do I feel so attached in relationships, whatever our dynamic is. But then what happens is that we will find, if that inquiry takes place, that many things in our daily living that we are doing from this construct, this conditioning of shoulds and shouldn'ts that were um, programmed within our system over the growing years or even right now. So with the exchange of concepts and living in an environment that we live in, continuous conditioning update is going on from all the sensory inputs, whether that's touch or temperature or words or sounds, visuals, smells, everything, feelings, emotions, everything is somehow updating our system in a way that we cannot understand. And the shoulds and shouldn'ts are basically the mechanisms, the constructs, the concepts in conditioning that were adapted by the system to, let's say, be accepted within the society. So maybe as a toddler, I couldn't throw a tantrum because I learned as a toddler that if when I throw a tantrum, I'm punished or I am sent in a dark room or whatever the case might be. So then I may find that, oh, that's why I avoid confrontation, let's say in that sense. Or that's why there is this anger that is suppressed within the system. So once an inquiry starts to happen, well, there are two things here. So the suppressed stuff that we felt like doing over the years, but somehow it was overridden, overcame by the concept, by the beliefs in the should and shouldn't of the system, which was for survival. So there's nothing wrong about it. That's just how our systems adapted to exist in this world as harmoniously as possible without much pain. So it was basically a pain avoiding mechanism, which is natural and out of survival in the beginning. And then it becomes a habit, and even an unconscious habit. So the first thing is that once an inquiry starts to happen, we'll find all this unfamiliar stuff coming up. It's like, where is this even coming from? And it can be overwhelming and scary. It can be quite unfamiliar also. Like it might even feel like that, like I can't relate to it. Like, what is this? Where is this coming from? And yet, pent up energies, the unresolved expression of what was felt naturally in the system, but it was somehow not expressed as naturally, and it was modulated or it was suppressed or repressed. So sitting with it or just letting it come up, even in small doses, might be the gradual way to understanding what's coming from shoulds and shouldn'ts and what is my natural flow. What do I feel like? And they may be the same thing, they may not be the same thing. So the second thing that I was gonna point out with this shoulds and shouldn'ts is that even when an inquiry starts or a spiritual search starts, turning inward starts, somehow the shoulds and shouldn'ts carry on with us. That I listen to a concept or a teaching or a teacher, and that becomes a should for me. That I should meditate, or I should eat vegetarian, or I should not do this or do that, or whatever the framework is, let's say, advising. And we take it on as like commandments, really. And then we try to live our life according to those commandments. And that, well, it might be healthier than the previous way of living for sure. But that's not what these concepts, the wisdom teachings, are designed for. So the concepts are there as a food for thought or as an experiment, as a personal experiment. If I feel like doing it, It's there for us. If I don't feel like doing it, I move on. But if there is, let's say I resonate with a concept and I find myself not thinking about it for weeks and weeks and days, but if there is guilt that, oh, I should be, let's say, chanting or meditating, whatever the practice is about, that I should be doing it, is actually the opposite of what the teaching is there to provide. So the teaching is meant to set us free. And freedom means to be able to do exactly as I feel like in each moment. So if, let's say, even sitting with suffering, let's say, for example, if suffering is coming up and it's just too much, I can pick up my phone and just call my friend just to distract myself or trying to do something else. And there might be a moment where suffering comes up and there is an urge to, you know what? It's uncomfortable, but I can be here. So indulgence can be medicine, and indulgence can be the poison. And that goes for everything else. Even meditation can be medicine, and meditation can be poison. What makes anything medicine or poison is the very identification of whether it should be done or whether I feel like doing it. And this framework or concept is a little more nuanced than how I'm sharing right now. But if we actually um, start looking at our daily living, at our what happens, so we know life is not in our control. So something might come from front, and I may not feel like engaging in it, but I will have to engage in it. Let's say I get a phone call from my mother, and I just wanted to read a book, and I don't want to talk to anyone. I still feel like an obligation that I have to pick up my phone and talk to her, let's say. So is that a should or a what I feel like doing? And when this kind of investigation starts happening, we can really work with ourselves to find our natural flow, to find that actually I pick up my mom's phone, even though a moment before when there was no call, I was going to go read my book. I'm picking up the phone it's either from a should and shouldn't that if I don't pick up, um, I'll hear about it later or whatever, and I'm trying to avoid that. Or in the moment, I feel like, oh, I'll just pick up the phone because that's what I feel like doing. And I'll ask if everything's okay, and then I'll tell her that I'll call her back in like 2 hours or tomorrow or whatever. So it could be either or. And it is very nuanced in the sense that in each moment, coming in touch with ourselves, whether it's in the form of body, when we can feel that what feels like flowing in this moment. If there's tiredness, can I go to sleep? No, I can't. I have work to do. I'm at my job and I have work to do. I can go to sleep. Okay, let me just go to the washroom and rest my eyes. Let me just rest my eyes at my desk. So whatever is possible, what starts to happen is there comes an understanding or a clarity of not participating. Oh, thank you, Ranko. Ranko said the connection is breaking. Just give me 1 second. Is the connection better now? Okay, great. I'm sorry. What did you miss? I will be happy to repeat.
Um, well, you were saying about how if you felt like going to sleep, but then you realize that you're at work, so you can't do that, you might go into the washroom and then it sort of froze and started breaking
Okay.
up.
Okay. So the point was that there are ways around in life to understand that what where I'm responding from, is it coming from a place of should and shouldn't, or is it coming from a place of natural flow, which feels like what I feel like doing, which feels in harmony with myself, which feels like coming from a place where there's no conflict about it. Even if what's happening should not be done, whether it's, let's say, eating an extra piece of cake or eating a whole pizza by myself, or maybe just ignoring a phone call that I know I should be picking up, but I'm just like, oh, you know what, I don't have the energy to talk right now, and maybe I'll call them tomorrow. So even though the action itself may feel like that this shouldn't be done or I shouldn't be doing it, but just coming into the natural flow of ourselves is the place from where whatever spiritual practice unfolds, whether it is not doing anything at all, whether it could, mostly what happens is that we just stop thinking about spiritual concepts altogether because the purpose is achieved. It's freedom now. That is what freedom looks like in practical daily living, that I am in touch with my own flow and I am able to honor it over the old conditioning patterns of shoulds and shouldn'ts. And the outcome of that is not in my control anyway.
But wouldn't suffering still arise the same as before spiritual practices were heard about?
It may
If,
or it may
if
not.
things are the
It may or it may not. But yes, if there is still unresolved energy in the system, the old patterns come up and they may still come up. They might even come up more violently than before. Violently, as in more frustratingly or more uncontrollably than before. Because before we were servant to it. We didn't even know this arises. We were just what arises. We were the suffering. And now more and more space as that is created between suffering and that which I am, as the one within which the suffering is arising, or the one which is looking at the suffering, that, oh, look at that, I am just so angry in this moment. And even though there might be shouting going on out of anger, there is an awareness within. It's like, look at this anger. And that space in itself is the proof that suffering is diluting. And yes, suffering may still arise, but it may arise sporadically. The undercurrent of, oh, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, all of that can start to unravel in a way that a natural flow can be available for experiencing in our daily living, maybe just for one moment, maybe for 5 minutes, maybe for the whole day, maybe for a full week before suffering arises. But that's just how it seems to unfold gradually. But again, if the priority is end of suffering, in this moment, am I coming from suffering or am I coming from flow or clarity or my own connection with, we can call it myself, or we can call it consciousness or the source, beingness, awareness. And it doesn't have to feel mystical at all. It's just very, very practical. So if sometimes what happens is that in the glimpses of that formless awareness, if that has unfolded or unveiled for us in our experience, the seeking then becomes about experiencing that permanently, all day, every day, in each moment. And that's not available, well, first of all. And second, that is not what is needed for suffering to fall away, because that experience is a glimpse into how things can be perceived from another angle, which is the inside angle. So the inside angle is that formless awareness of awareness itself. And in each moment in daily living, I don't have to be perceiving the formless awareness as myself in order to not blame the other in this moment. Because that connection of me, Gurleen, with the impersonal consciousness that is somehow personalized itself as Gurleen and her mechanism, which is all weird and all good and all bad, all of it's a mix of things. And now for Gurleen to be free of suffering, which is end of shame and guilt, end of blame and hatred towards the other, end of pride and arrogance, end of worry and anxiety about the future, the end of expectation and attachment to outcome. Whether it's about me, it's an expectation or attachment to how I should be or how I shouldn't be, or about the other, or about the flow of life. So absence of suffering is just absence of these five things. So even if I'm not tapped into that experiential open awareness experience, if these things are absent, there is no suffering. There can be pain, but there is no suffering. And basically, that's what it boils down to. So in every moment, if there is a practice, if it were destined to happen, it is not a prescription. It is not something to do. It is something that might happen. We might find ourselves that, oh, look at that. I'm blaming myself. Oh, look at that. I'm just resenting the other. And there's nothing to do about it. Just the awareness is enough, because the blame has arisen on its own. It goes on for how long it goes on. But now what is happening? The energy of identification with becoming the blamer is not there, because the one that would have been the blamer is now the awarer. Looking at the blame is like, oh, look at that. I'm just blaming out of nowhere. And then what might happen is that I see the blame being there. And then I may start blaming myself that, oh, I listened to this and I've heard so much and I know better, and still I'm blaming. And that's shame. That's guilt. And then there can be awareness of that. Oh, look at that. Now the blame just turned inward. And that's suffering. And there's nothing to do about the suffering. The suffering is just here. The moment the suffering is taken personally, that if there is suffering, there's something wrong with me, that's more suffering. So the need to end the suffering is suffering. So suffering is there, it's there. It's not there, it's not there. There's nothing personal about it. It is no measure of how well or how unwell I am doing on the spiritual path. Because the I that wants to measure is suffering.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question though? Because I kind of went on a lot of tangents there. Good.
Yeah, it did. It more than answered it. Thank you.
Pleasure, Renee. Thank you for your question. Ranko.
Gurleen,
Hi, Ranko.
how are you?
I am well, very well.
Very good,
How
yeah.
about you?
Same, same.
Good.
Yeah. Well, since we are nuancing, what I'd noticed in my process that whatever activity I'm trying to do, special like meditation or any kind of work during the day, you can actually before you can sense it if you feel resistance to it or if you feel boredom or if it was somehow. And I was thinking maybe if I could leave this luggage, this psychological luggage, just before I go into that activity. And actually, that is possible. And then activity makes sense, actually. You can have like meditation practice at 7 o'clock every day. But if you do it with all this kind of psychological luggage, it will be like hell, you know. It will be like a lot of energy will be lost just at the beginning. And if you do it without any kind of luggage, it will happen naturally. And not just meditation, but also all kind of, at work, maybe some kind of situations when you get a lot of work from your boss or something, and then you complain inside, oh, how much work I get, why I done it or something. But if you do it without any kind of psychological involvement or luggage, you will just do it. And if your boss will criticize you or will cheer you up, it doesn't matter, actually. So actually this happened and it was a little bit awkward situation because I was just looking at my boss and there was no reaction at all. Even it was cheering up, but it was nothing. So I find that approach very helpful.
Yeah, that's a wonderful sharing. That's so true. And that is kind of tied with what I just talked about, that coming from a feel like, and then just being aware that what kind of should or shouldn't am I bringing here? What kind of baggage, the word that you use is a wonderful word. What kind of baggage am I bringing to this moment, this intention, this action that is about to happen, that I am choosing in a way, or that is being chosen through me in this moment. So yes, no matter well, what you shared, actually, I'm going to go a little off tangent here, and thank you for triggering it in a way. Mostly what we find, well, at least in my case, what I experienced is that the shoulds and shouldn'ts, or what the patterns, the old habits, even though there is this new experience of what I am, and the me that is still suffering is within that I am. And both of them somehow simultaneously are perceived. And when there is, but what happens is there is also this sort of adulteration of something not wanting to be the me, because there's just so much suffering. And what can happen from there is just an awareness that, oh, look at that, that's just attachment right there, that I am attached to not suffer. So I'm basically attached to outcome, or I'm basically still clinging to not suffer. And that clinging in itself is the suffering. So if that really dawns upon us, then a meditation, or really a willingness or an openness, which doesn't even have to be like, stepping towards it. It can just be like still. It doesn't have to participate. It doesn't have to move away. It just is there. And then the suffering can be allowed even within, and it doesn't act like a baggage anymore. Then it is the joy of looking at, oh, what's in my system as Gurleen. Like, what am I made of? Which is a hell lot of suffering, but let's not judge it. It's just here. So let's just check it out. That what are the cards that are dealt to me that makes Gurleen who she is? And that's really what it then becomes about for a while. And then the meditation can just be, suffering can be going on in the background, but then it doesn't need to be even looked at. Mera, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good.
Something is happening with light, but you are audible.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So yes, the approach that you shared is very useful and can be wonderfully effortless to choose freedom from suffering in this moment over the habitual suffering patterns that we are so unconsciously choosing all the time.
Yeah, like we are started to be more sensitive to suffering, and we even feel it more, you know, like you are holding a very hot coal, you know, in your hand, and then naturally you will move your hand out, you know. That is happening also
Yes.
in the process.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, over a while, then you just see the stove, you know it's on, you don't even go close to it. It's not even that you find your hand burning. You don't need to even go close to the stove, or you just go there and turn it off and move away.
Yeah.
That's just how easy or effortless it can become.
Yeah.
And that can only happen, as you said, when we become more sensitive to suffering. That means that we can feel the same suffering even more powerfully. So that is how, rather than at a moment when we find our hand burning in the stove, is when we realize, oh, this is suffering, and then we take the hand out. We, even while walking beside the stove, which is on, we can feel the heat. So we don't even have to take our hand there anymore. But that's the thing, that the suffering is now even more palpable in the system. And then the system somehow, it is very intelligent, and the system somehow now can more quickly, without more harm, can choose to take the other out.
Yeah. And for me, clear indication is like you said, this word effortless. This is very helpful now for me. If you see that
Yes.
something is happening effortless, then okay, this is the part when suffering is subsiding. That's kind of indicator, you know, litmus test, sort of.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. Effortlessness is the antidote to the belief in the doership and the attachment to outcome, because when there's attachment to outcome, everything feels like and that's effort right there. There's just so much restriction and constriction that feels when attachment to outcome is being experienced. And just the moment the perception switches from what we are feeling about to the mess itself. So it's not about what's making me feel that way, what triggered it. Then it's about, oh, it's here. And that's suffering. And there's this anecdote, I think I read somewhere, where Buddha said, I don't know if he said or not, but I read it, that anger, so when a snake bites you, do you right away start taking care of the bite and taking care of the poison that has entered your system? Or do you start running after the snake to kill it because it bit you? And that's really what it boils down to. It's like, I am feeling this restriction. Am I going to just sit back and take care of this? Or am I going to go in and just throw verbal accusations or just blame or hatred or judgment on the other now? Feeling righteous even because you did wrong and I am right. But we fail to see that this is suffering. This is coming out of suffering. And
Yeah.
very true. Just effortlessness is the natural state. That's why Ramana said that being the self, or in each moment, being the self is the natural state of who we are. And in practical daily living, that feels like effortlessness, which feels like end of conflict, really. And effort, not in the literal sense of the word, that we don't even have to pick anything up or go to work or cook or exercise, not any of that kind of effort, but effortlessness in the sense that internally, attitudinally, everything is okay. Nothing needs to be fixed, really, however pleasurable or painful the circumstance may be. And then from that okayness, the measures can be taken. The effort can come from the effortlessness to enhance the pleasure, let's say, or to mitigate the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end, a lot of gratitude for the satsang so far. I find it very helpful, and thank you for maybe for all of us. I think the other people are also very grateful, and we are a small group of people, I understand, but this means a lot for us. So thank you a lot from the heart, and maybe I see you in Goa.
Yes, maybe. But thank you, Reko. It is such a pleasure to be able to take this opportunity of coming online every Sunday and just getting to be with you guys, all of you. And it is such an honor and such a pleasant surprise to see how it unfolds every Sunday on its own, with our conversations, with the monologue. And it is really a joy. It has been a joy. Shiv.
Hi, Gurleen. I just wanted to say thanks. I don't have much to say. I'm kind of blank. Maybe that's the goal. Just
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. And somehow I want to say thanks to what, if there is some greater power that arranged situations so that this could happen in a way. It seems like that, because when I first came to you, my guru stopped offering satsang, and then you stopped. Now my guru started offering again, and I've been in Tiruvannamalai for a month, and I've been attending satsangs others also, and I plan to stay here for 5 more months. And somehow, regardless what you just said, no, that thing is there that you're pointing to. So it does feel like it's not the people, but something is taking care in a way. It gives you what you need. So it gives you what you need. I don't know what to say. Yeah. But
Yes. Yes.
I'm grateful to you, grateful to that, and I look forward to what else it has to offer. And thank you. Hopefully we'll meet again sometime soon in Satsang
Yes.
space. Thank you.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you, Shiv. And yes, life takes care of life. And there is that which is flowing not just through all of us, but that within which all of us are flowing. And we are being lived by that. So the desire happens within that, as that. The fulfillment of desire happens within that, as that, through that. And the frustration of the desire not being fulfilled is also within that, through that itself. So whatever is that, and the gratitude itself is for that. And yes, I'm happy to hear that life is flowing well for you, and Tiruvannamalai is a sacred place, Ramana's place, Arunachala's place, and if we find ourselves in the proximity of that place, it's already taken care of for us. Not that we need to go there for anything. That reminds me of a story, because now that I mentioned that Tiruvannamalai is such a powerful place where the deepening can somehow unravel in such unexpected and magnificent ways. The doer mechanism can listen to this and then now can start looking at tickets and flights. It's like, oh, I should go to Tiruvannamalai. But just thinking of that now, I want to share a story. This is, I think, somewhere recorded in one of the books of Ramana. There was this person in, I think, Philippines or some country in the 1950s or 40s, when there was no YouTube or, such ease of traveling and communication, and people just somehow were getting to know about Ramana through word of mouth or through maybe some print news articles, or maybe a book or two. I'm not sure at that time what was available to the seekers and how they were able to just come in thousands and thousands to meet Ramana and to be in his presence. So there was this one person who came to Ramana, reached Ramana ashram, and sat in front of him, and then just told him of how he or she, I don't know if the person was a man or a woman, how they ended up in Tiruvannamalai in Ramana ashram. And then they narrated that I was sitting on a bench by the river, and you yourself showed up, and you gave me the address. You told me, okay, this is where you need to go. And so I honored that vision or call, and then here I am. And I'm here for self-realization, to get instruction. And Ramana, like he is known to be, just laid there silently for I don't know how long. And then the transmission definitely happened through his silent presence. And then he said that, well, I was there, right? And then the person said, yes, you are the one who I followed here. And he said, then you don't need to come here. I'm everywhere. So you can just go sit back on that bench and I'll still be there. And that is the power of grace. Grace hits us in ways that we cannot even imagine, in ways that we don't even take it as grace. And the biggest grace of all is the push, is the disappointment, is the frustration that one might feel from having treated the flow of life as the very source of happiness. And the more and more disappointment we experience from the flow of life as it fails to provide happiness to us, no matter how much the pleasure or how much the pain or whatever the case may be, that itself is the grace that is calling us inward, making it clear again and again that we're looking in the wrong place. It's not in the flow of life. It's not in whether I achieve my goals or not. It's not in whether I achieve my best health or not. It's not in whether I achieve harmonious, wonderful relationships or not. It's not to be found in the flow of life. It's not to be found in the circumstance. It's not to be found in how I behave or how I don't behave. It's not to be found in my strengths and weaknesses as a person. It's not to be found in the others, how they treat me, how they don't treat me. It's not to be found in the flow of life. Where is it to be found? And that is the grace itself, if that question really arises, because it's not out there. And that might be the very stopping of the effort that may happen. And the moment a stopping happens, it becomes clear that the happiness is our natural state. The happiness that I'm so desperately looking for is the very natural state underneath all the efforts, underneath all the missions that I feel like I'm on. And all those missions and efforts can still go on, but now they can come from knowing that the outcome of those efforts, the outcome of those missions, whether it's preferable or not, whether it's a positive outcome or a negative outcome, the happiness is not in the outcome. And because happiness is not in the outcome doesn't mean that I stop doing what I do. The doing can still happen. But now the looking for that fulfillment from the outcome of that doing can stop. And the outcome can be enjoyed if it's pleasurable, or can be tolerated and looked for a way out when it's painful. Knowing that the outcome is not in my control, knowing that a positive outcome is not because of me, so there is no chance of feeling the pride or arrogance towards a positive outcome, and knowing that a negative outcome is not because of me, so the guilt and shame have no place to arise. And likewise, a positive outcome is a happening and not the other's doing. So there is no need to, what would be like putting the other on the pedestal like God, that, oh, if only they bless me or they are with me, then life will be good and I'll be happy. Whether it's a relationship or partnership or even a guru-disciple relationship. And a negative outcome likewise, if it seems to have happened as an outcome that came from others' actions or intentions, even then there is no place for blame or hatred to hold on in our system, because it is seen, it is known that, well, first of all, my happiness is not in the outcome. So even if it is a painful outcome, it's okay. I just need to see how to minimize the pain if possible and then move on. And the other, knowing that the other is not the doer. The outcome is not in my control. The outcome is not in others' control. The outcome is just what happens, which could be positive or negative. So who do I blame and why do I blame? Because it's just pain. It's not suffering. And my happiness is not to be found in the absence of pain. Just like how my happiness is not to be found in the presence of pleasure. So my happiness is the very natural state underneath all the endeavors to wanting more pleasures and wanting no pain. So what to do? Whatever in each moment comes to you. Shiv, again.
I just thought I'd make use of this opportunity. I was contemplating about doership, okay, and what distinguishes a happening from a doing, and I guess when I feel like let's take the example of a sneeze, and versus I call that a happening, and me asking this question could be a doing, and I see the different. If I were to identify what makes this asking question seem like a doing and not a happening, is that first the question it needs to be formulated in my head in the form of an intention, like there is something I don't understand, and as you say, the attachment outcome is also related what that answer would do for me, so that needs to be clarified, and then this is the intention part, and then it gets executed through the body, like I did ask the question, and that gives the impression of doership. So what would you say to that?
That's a great question. The first thing that I want to say is that the suffering is not in the sense of doership. The suffering is in the belief in the sense of doership. So the sense of doership remains even when suffering's not there. The belief in the sense of doership in the form that I am the doer and I control the outcome and my happiness is to be found in the outcome, always being pleasure, 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 that's the suffering. So this body-mind organism, I'm just going to use an example that Roger uses because many people ask, like, this is somehow related to the question that is there free will or not? So like, what differentiates a happening from a doing? Well, short answer is that the doing is happening. So the doing is a subset of happening. Because for a desire to arise, where does that come from? It may very well not be there, but it was there. Then there an intention grabbed hold of it, which doesn't happen for many other desires that arise during the day. But for this one, it did. And then it was formulated as a question. And maybe there was a belief that when I ask this question, when I get the answer, I'll be enlightened. Whatever. There might be, there might not be. But then the speaking happens. Well, the raising of a hand happens. And then the other is involved in this, which is bigger than our own inner mechanism. So my own system somehow worked in a way that it chose to take your name again. I could very well might have thought that you raised your hand as a mistake and I would have totally ignored it. Who knows? But it didn't. So then now we're talking. So the doing is a happening, but what differentiates the doing from suffering is a more valid question. Doing is not causing suffering. The identification with the doing as the doer, who is in control of outcomes, and believing that whatever the outcome is what is going to make me happy or make me unhappy, is the suffering.
Like when you say the sense of doership is not, there's a difference between sense of doership and belief in doership.
Belief
So
in
would
the
you
sense of doership.
belief in the sense of doership?
Because the sense of doership is there. My mouth is opening up, the vocal cords are working, and the voice is coming out, formulating sounds in a way that we call language, and it's understandable to both parties. So doing is going on. The sense of doership is there. I am moving these hands somehow.
And how does that not become a belief? Do you it seems like you're just in denial kind of thing, something like that. Like you feel like you're the doer, but you tell yourself you're not the doer, or how does that, I mean, could you just
You don't tell yourself you're not the doer. There is a falling away of misunderstanding that the doing is my choice. The choice also happens. And basically what it boils down to is, again, what I was telling Renee, the absence of belief in the sense of doership and attachment to outcomes is simply the absence of those 5 forms of suffering. The absence of shame and guilt, the absence of blame and hatred towards the other, the absence of pride and arrogance, the absence of worry and anxiety, the absence of attachment to outcome and expectations. So if none of those narratives are playing out right now, the belief in the sense of doership and attachment to outcome is absent. So it's not a presence of understanding. It's not a presence of knowing that I'm not the doer. It's the absence of believing that the outcome will bring me peace, because there's no need for peace anymore.
So what I'm asking also, this is so I have a sense of doership and I don't do anything with it. That's what you're saying. I have that sense and I don't do it. No, like that sense is there, and then what? Once the sense is there,
Then nothing. Then
then
it's
nothing
just an
happens.
understanding that whatever is happening is according to God's will. It's a happening, including my very doing, including it's a gift. The sense of doership is the feeling of free will. I chose to set up a time at 7:30 IST every Sunday. And
Yeah.
it feels like I'm doing it, I'm choosing a time. And then it is your free will that maybe prioritizes your day in a sense that you are available at that time, and then you sign in.
Yeah.
And then life also somehow orchestrates in a way that the internet works, the electricity is there. My health is well enough that I can listen and I can speak and I can understand. And all of that is in place for us to have this experience. So the absence of belief in the sense of doership is basically the falling away of the misunderstanding, as I said. But then it is basically understanding that life is impersonal, not my doing, not the other's doing, not anybody's doing. The feeling of doership, the feeling of doing something doesn't fall away. I still feel like I am picking up this hand and I'm making this and then I'm opening it. It feels that way. It will actually be very catastrophic if it stops feeling that way.
So now none of those things are there, no? Anxiety, shame, blame, regret, hatred, all of that. Are you saying
The absence of suffering, yes. In this
then,
moment, if none of that is present, the suffering is not present.
and would you say that then there's no belief in the sense of doership right now then?
Yes. If you, let's say, do something and there is no blame that arises in my system, I may still tell you off. It's like, Shiv, shut up. I could say that. But within me, if there is no blame arising, if I'm not blaming you for saying what you said, there is no suffering. There might be pain. There might be an emotional pain because we now share a relationship where I didn't expect, where there was this pain of you having insulted me or disrespected me or whatever. There might be an emotional pain towards that momentarily, out of which, shut up, how dare you say that can happen? And yet, if there's no blame inside, or the next moment I'm not thinking about it, it's like, why did he say that? What does that mean about me? Did I do something wrong? Should I have done something different? Whatever narrative may come. If that is not happening, that's absence of guilt and blame. So that is absence of doership, that the belief in the sense of doership in that sense.
But for some reason, I get the feeling that even if all those are absent, I can still believe myself to be the doer. It's not necessary that is it? Are you saying that? It's only when I experience those suffering things that you mentioned, those 5 opposites, 5 pairs of opposites. It's only then that I believe I'm a doer. I don't think so.
That's a very valid question. If I implied that, that is not correct. It's not about believing that I'm the doer. It's about believing that I am the doer. So
What? Huh. I didn't get that.
well, those were the same words, but it did make sense, didn't it?
I just missed that. Could you repeat? It just didn't register. Huh.
The I that I am is the doer of life. That belief is absent. But in the moment, it does feel like I am speaking. It does feel like I'm listening. It does feel like I'm interpreting and then coming up with an answer or a question. So I do feel like I'm the doer. There's no need to believe that I'm the doer because it does feel like that I am doing. Doing is happening through me. But the belief that Gurleen, is the doer of Gurleen, is the doer of Gurleen's life, that's absent.
I'm just not getting it. You're getting why this is difficult or something? Why I'm
Of
not?
course, it is
Yeah.
the ultimate it is the
Paradox.
ultimate paradox. Yes. Yes.
So this is a nice note to end the satsang series on, is it? Oh my God.
The feeling of being the doer doesn't fall away. Just like the feeling of being the person that I am doesn't fall away. The person doesn't die. The taking life personally dies.
Are you saying there is a person doing it, but I'm not the person? That's what happens. Or
No,
there's no person.
no. The person is doing it is the misunderstanding. The person itself is a happening that believes that it is doing.
So this also something interesting happened. I was contemplating this also. So somebody told me in Tiruvannamalai that karma yoga is to keep telling myself as a beginner, to keep telling myself that God is doing all these things through me, all my thoughts, words, deeds. And I was doing that, and what was it? I'm trying to remember. At one point, I got this thought that I think I'm doing this, and then I rephrase that as God thinks He's doing this, and it just seemed like a bit odd. It's like, am I just replacing I with God? Is it just a change of labels? I'm not sure. I'm not. I don't remember clearly also, but I think this is related to what you're saying. So, are you saying that? I don't know what you're saying, but I'm trying to get it. I know there's something to it, but I'm not getting it, and I don't know if I can get it.
There's nothing to get, Shiv. There's nowhere to get and nothing to get. However, that would be an answer that eventually might dawn upon you when the answer happens or the question dissolves. However, you just said something that but I think I'm doing it. That's where Ramana's inquiry come into play. Who is this I that thinks that it's doing it? What is this I?
Exactly. So this is exactly those two questions. Like I think I'm doing it versus God thinks He's doing it. What is? They
What is
both
God?
seem. They
What
both
am
seem
I?
to. None of them is the error. Neither of them is the error. Like the error of egoic belief or whatever it is that didn't seem to have been removed by rephrasing it as God thinks He's doing it. It just seemed like a change of labels. I'm not sure.
That makes sense. That does make sense. And it can feel like a change of labels if it is done mechanically, which might be a good idea to start with until it lands in a way that it really starts being seen as what is the purpose of saying that God is doing this and not me? That is the very purpose of that practice is to be able to see that I'm not the doer. It is happening through me.
So that seeing, once that happens, that will make all the difference. That seeing has to happen.
Well, yes, either the seeing has to happen or the search has to fall away. It's the same thing. Well, actually, it's the same thing. But But what happens is that sometimes we have this preconceived ideas of what seeing should feel like. And until that is satisfied, we feel like we still haven't seen.
Mm.
We feel like that the seeing hasn't happened until what the idea we are carrying hasn't become experience yet. But that is why they say that the enlightenment happens when there's nobody left to be enlightened. And another way of saying that is that the seeing happens when the need to see falls away, or any idea of how the seeing should be or what the seeing should bring falls away.
So this conversation should fall away for that to happen.
Yes, I was just trying to get rid of you. You got it.
You failed, I'm still here. But hopefully I won't be eventually.
But
Thank you.
it's really any practice. I think I remember the other day we were talking about how all the paths are really the same in essence. They just look like different practices, and they are different practices because they are trying to approach the same essence through different angles. So they have to be different. And yet, the very practice, what they explain, karma yoga. But then another interpretation of karma yoga is do the action, but don't be attached to outcome. Karm kar, phal ki ichha na kar, right? That's like the most famous teaching that is renowned in the world as Bhagavad Gita's teaching, that do the action, but don't be attached to outcome. Now, what does that mean? How is it possible to not be attached to outcome? When there is an understanding, or when there is falling away of the misunderstanding that the outcome is in my control, number one, and that my happiness, my completeness is to be found in that outcome. Because how can I not be attached to something that will bring me happiness or my completeness that I'm so desperate for? And that belief in itself is the misunderstanding. So I can only find myself not attached to outcomes is when there is an understanding that my happiness, my completeness, what I'm really looking for is not to be found in any outcome. And number two, that the outcome is not in my control anyway. It's not my doing. It's a happening according to God's will. So the another approach could be that God is the doer, but then who is God? Either God is everything or God is nothing. God is not like a separate entity sitting and running a puppet show. God is this right now as the seeking and as the falling away of seeking. God is really that all there is God. The isness itself is, and everything else is an expression of that. So the sense of doing something remains, but I am doing it out of my own volition falls away, because the very desire, the very intention, the very energy to act, the very circumstance or environment that landed up to support the action was all out of my control. I did not decide my desires. I wake up and I feel like fasting today, or I wake up or I feel like eating that today. Where did that come from? And yes, I do act on things, but the very things that even I feel like acting on, where does that come from? Call it God, call it nothing, call it everything, call it my true self. But yes, I do feel like I'm doing it. That is the very gift of being sentient. Like, just imagine if I would feel like that I am moving my fingers, but I'm not the doer of them. If that's what it would feel like physically, like how creepy that would be. Like something's locked in the body and the body is running on its own, but I can't do anything about it. Like, just imagine, that would be a horrible, horrible way to be. So thank God that we feel like we are the doers. That's how generous God is, I would say.
I guess I'll just be content with knowing that I can't know it as of now, and somehow something will happen if it has to happen. And that's been your main thing. If it's destined, it'll happen.
Well,
So I,
this talk is going to be on YouTube. So if you feel like listening to
yeah,
it again, maybe in another moment the words land in a different way. And that might be useful. And plus, you're in Tiruvannamalai, man. Just that is enough.
it
Not
is
that,
a lot of grace.
not
It is.
that, not that anywhere else is not amazing, because once the search starts, everywhere is Tiruvannamalai and everywhere is Ramana. So yeah, all is well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for satsang. Thank you.
Pleasure, Shiv. Thank you so much for joining in so diligently and being present, and your questions, and everyone, really everyone. Thank you for holding the space for the satsangs to unfold, for being patient with the internet sometimes, with whatever may not have aligned well with the system. It has been really nice. And hopefully we can connect again soon. I do want to remind everyone that even though the Sunday satsangs won't be going on for some time, the one-on-ones are still open. I will be happy to schedule a time if anyone needs to talk or just have a conversation about something that might be alive in that moment. Just feel free to reach out on any social media channel, and we can meet up on Zoom. Let's see where life takes us. Until we meet again. Oh, there is, let me do that. JC.
Hello, Gurleen.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. Is it okay to keep my camera off or?
For sure, whatever feels right.
I haven't been as frequent as some of the others, as you know. But I didn't even realize this was the last satsang in the series. That's how infrequent of a visitor I've been. I just want to say thank you. That came out as a question. It's not a question. I want to say thank you. Hearing everybody, just hearing how everyone has been so open to share the vulnerabilities of themselves in this space, how you navigate that, how you and you speak so well. Like I don't even know how to express that. Um, I just wanted to voice this here in the space. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. And it is a pleasure. It is really the grace of the space itself that is created by all the beautiful ones that we gather together, that maybe gives me the articulation that is required for the listener. So I appreciate the gratitude, and the gratitude is mutual. It's really a joy. And I myself am waiting for when this gathering, Sunday gathering or weekly gatherings can start again. I'll be also very happy to catch up again together. One last thing before we part ways for this one. It is impossible to be outside of satsang. There is nowhere I can go. There is no experience that I can have which is not already in satsang, which is not already a part of satsang. And what better way to be alive than that? We're always in satsang. Until next time. And I'll let you know when that is. I love you all. Take care.